Picture this. You're sitting at your kitchen table, a cup of coffee in hand, flipping through a stack of bills, or maybe scrolling through your bank account on your phone. You've worked hard your whole life, raised a family, maybe even traveled a bit. And now you're in your 60s, ready to enjoy the freedom retirement promises. But there's this nagging feeling in the back of your mind. Am I doing this right? Are my savings safe? Could I be making mistakes that might cost me my independence down the road? If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. So many of us, after 60, want to make sure our money lasts as long as we do. But it's easy to stumble into financial traps that can threaten that dream. I'm here today to walk you through 4 common financial mistakes seniors make after 60, and, more importantly, share simple, practical steps you can take to avoid them. My goal is to help you protect your hard-earned money, steer clear of scams, and keep your financial freedom intact so you can live life on your terms. Whether that's spoiling your grandkids, taking that dream vacation, or just knowing you're secure for the years ahead. In this video, we're going to talk about budgeting smarter, spotting scams before they get you, planning for unexpected costs, and making sure your money works for you, not against you. So, grab a notepad if you'd like, and let's dive into the first mistake. The first big mistake seniors often make after 60 is not having a realistic budget. Or honestly, not sticking to one. I know the word budget can feel like a chore, like something you thought you'd leave behind after your working years. But here's the thing. A budget isn't about pinching pennies or saying no to the things you love. It's about knowing exactly where your money's going so you can spend on what matters most without worrying about running short. After 60, your income might be coming from Social Security, a pension, or savings, and it's usually more fixed than it was when you were working. That makes it even more important to have a clear plan. Let me tell you about my friend Linda. She's 67, retired, and loves her weekly lunches with her book club. But a couple of years ago, she noticed her savings were shrinking faster than she expected. She wasn't sure why. Nothing big had changed, or so she thought. When we sat down together, we looked at her spending, and it turned out she was dipping into her savings for little things that added up. Extra subscriptions she forgot about, impulse buys at the store, and even helping her grown kids with small expenses here and there. Linda didn't have a budget, so she didn't realize how those small leaks were sinking her financial ship. Here's how you can avoid this trap. Start by tracking your spending for just 1 month. Write down everything. Groceries, utilities, that coffee at the cafe, even the streaming services you're subscribed to. You can use a notebook, a spreadsheet, or even a free app like Mint or YNAB. Once you see where your money's going, you can make a simple budget. A great rule of thumb is the 50-30-20 rule, tweaked for retirement. Try to keep 50% of your income for essentials like housing and food, 30% for wants like hobbies or travel, and 20% for savings or unexpected costs. If that feels too rigid, adjust it to fit your life. The key is to know your numbers and stick to them. And here's a pro tip. Check in with your budget every month or 2. Life changes. Maybe your insurance goes up, or you decide to cut back on dining out. A quick review keeps you in control. Linda did this, and now she's not only saving more, but also feels confident saying yes to those book club lunches because she knows they fit her plan. A budget gives you freedom, not limits, and it's one of the easiest ways to protect your financial security after 60. Now, let's move on to the second mistake, which is a big one: falling for scams. I hate to say it, but scammers love targeting seniors, and they're getting sneakier every day. Whether it's a phone call claiming you owe taxes, an email promising a too-good-to-be-true investment, or even someone posing as your grandkid needing emergency cash, these scams are designed to catch you off guard. and tug at your heartstrings. The Federal Trade Commission says seniors lose a lot to scams every year, and the worst part? Many don't report it because they're embarrassed or don't know how to fight back. Let me share a story to bring this home. My Uncle Ray, who's 72, got a call one afternoon from someone claiming to be from his internet provider. The caller said his account was hacked and needed to secure it by sharing his social security number. Ray's no pushover, but the caller sounded so official, and Ray was worried about losing his internet, which he almost gave in. Luckily, he hung up and called his provider directly, only to find out it was a total scam. That close call shook him, but it taught him a lesson he now shares with everyone. Here's how you can protect yourself. First, never share personal information like your social security number, bank account details, or passwords over the phone or email unless you're 100% sure who you're dealing with. If you get a call or message that feels urgent, like act now or lose your account, that's a red flag. Hang up or delete it. Then contact the company or person directly using a number you trust, like the one on your bill or their official website. Second, be wary about offers that sound too good to be true, like investments promising sky-high returns with no risk. If someone's pushing you to act fast, take a deep breath and walk away. Legitimate advisors don't pressure you like that. Another smart move is to freeze your credit with the major bureaus: Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. It's free, and it stops scammers from opening accounts in your name. You can even do this online in just a few minutes. And if you ever need to apply for credit, you can unfreeze it temporarily. Lastly, talk to your family or a trusted friend about any suspicious offers or calls you get. Sometimes just saying it out loud helps you spot what you might have missed in the moment. Ray now runs every odd call by his daughter, and it saved him from a couple more close calls. By staying sharp and taking these steps, you can keep scammers at bay and protect your money. It's not about being paranoid. It's about being prepared so you can focus on enjoying your life. Now that we've talked about budgeting smarter and dodging scams, let's move on to another mistake that can sneak up on you after 60. So, we've talked about getting a handle on your budget and staying one step ahead of those sneaky scammers. But there's another financial pitfall that can catch even the most careful seniors off guard: not planning for unexpected costs. Life after 60 can feel like smooth sailing at times. But every now and then, a storm pops up. A medical bill, a car repair, or maybe a home maintenance issue like a leaky roof. If you're not ready for these surprises, they can throw your finances into a tailspin and chip away at the independence you've worked so hard to maintain. Let's dive into why this is such a common mistake, and how you can be prepared so these unexpected expenses don't derail your dreams. Think about it like this. When you were younger, maybe you had a steady paycheck or some wiggle room to cover a surprise cost. But in retirement, most of us are working with a fixed income: Social Security, a pension, or withdrawals from savings. That makes it tougher to absorb a big, unplanned expense. I remember chatting with my neighbor, Tom, who's 68 and loves tinkering in his garden. Last year, his furnace gave out right in the middle of winter. It was a $4,000 fix. And while Tom had some savings, he hadn't set aside anything specifically for emergencies like this. He ended up dipping into his vacation fund, which meant canceling a trip he'd been planning with his wife for months. It wasn't just the money. It was the disappointment of missing out on something they'd looked forward to. The good news? You can avoid this trap with a little planning. The first step is to build an emergency fund, even if you're already retired. Aim for enough to cover 3 to 6 months of living expenses. Think rent or mortgage, groceries, utilities, and insurance. If that sounds like a lot, start small. Set aside $50 or $100 a month, whatever you can manage, into a separate savings account. Pick one that's easy to access but not tied to your daily checking account, so you're not tempted to dip into it for non-emergencies. Online banks often offer slightly higher interest rates, which can help your fund grow a bit over time. Another tip is to plan for healthcare costs specifically. Medicare is great, but it doesn't cover everything. Think dental, vision, or long-term care. Consider setting up a health savings account if you're eligible, or just earmark some savings for medical expenses. And don't forget about home and car maintenance. If your car's getting older or your house is showing its age, budget a little each year for upkeep. For example, putting aside $500 a year for home repairs can save you from a bigger hit down the road. Tom started doing this after his furnace fiasco, and now he's got a small cushion that gives him peace of mind. One last thought on this. Insurance can be a lifesaver. Review your home, auto, and health policies to make sure they're up to date and cover what you need. For instance, if you live in an area prone to floods or storms, check if your homeowner's insurance includes those risks. It's not fun to think about, but being prepared means you can handle life's curveballs without sacrificing your financial freedom. Now, let's talk about the fourth mistake, which is a big one: not making your money work for you. After 60, it's tempting to play it safe with your savings, maybe keeping everything in a checking account or a low-interest savings account because it feels secure. But here's the catch. Inflation is like a silent thief. It creeps up year after year, making your dollars worth less. If your money isn't growing at least a little, you could find yourself struggling to afford the same lifestyle in 10 or 15 years. Let me tell you about my Aunt Clara, who's 70 and sharp as a tack. When she retired, she parked most of her savings in a regular bank account because she was nervous about the stock market. But a few years ago, she noticed her grocery bills and gas prices creeping up, and her savings weren't keeping pace. She sat down with a financial advisor, not some pushy salesperson, but a certified planner who took the time to understand her needs. They helped her move a portion of her savings into low-risk investments, like bonds and dividend-paying stocks, that offered a bit more growth without too much risk. Now, Clara's money is working harder for her, and she feels more confident about her future. Here's how you can avoid this mistake. First, take a look at where your money is sitting. If it's all in a checking account earning next to nothing, you're losing ground to inflation. Consider options like high-yield savings accounts, certificates of deposit, or even treasury bonds, which are safe and offer better returns. If you're comfortable with a little more risk, a diversified portfolio with some stocks or mutual funds can help your money grow over time. The key is balance. You don't want to gamble your life savings, but you also don't want it sitting idle. If you're not sure where to start, talk to a fiduciary financial advisor, someone who's legally obligated to act in your best interest. They can help you figure out what makes sense for your goals and comfort level. And don't feel pressured to make big changes overnight. Start small, maybe moving a portion of your savings into a higher yield account, and go from there. The important thing is to make sure your money is doing something for you, not just sitting there. Another smart move is to review your withdrawals if you're pulling from retirement accounts like a 401k or IRA. There's a strategy called the 4% rule, where you withdraw no more than 4% of your savings each year to make it last longer. For example, if you have $500,000 saved, that's $20,000 a year, adjusted for inflation. It's not a one-size-fits-all rule, but it's a good starting point to ensure you don't outlive your money. Clara started using this approach, and it's helped her plan her spending with confidence. By planning for unexpected costs and making your money work harder, you're building a stronger foundation for your financial freedom. Let's keep this momentum going, and talk about how to tie all these pieces together to protect your independence for years to come. We've covered a lot of ground so far, from crafting a budget that gives you control to dodging scams and preparing for life's unexpected expenses. But there's one more piece of the puzzle that ties everything together, and it's about staying proactive with your financial plan as you move through your 60s, 70s, and beyond. The fourth mistake we're diving into today isn't about a single bad decision. It's about letting your financial strategy go on autopilot. After 60, life changes fast, whether it's your health, your family, or even your dreams for the future. If you're not regularly checking in on your finances, you might miss opportunities to save, grow, or protect your money, and that can put your independence at risk. Let's talk about why this happens and how you can stay in the driver's seat. Think of your financial plan like a garden. You can't just plant it once and walk away. It needs tending, pruning, and maybe a little extra care when the seasons change. I saw this firsthand with my friend Margaret, who's 65 and loves her volunteer work at the local animal shelter. When she retired, she set up her finances with a simple plan: Social Security, a small pension, and some savings. But a few years later, her daughter moved back home with her kids, and Margaret's expenses shot up. Groceries, utilities, even school supplies. She hadn't revisited her plan in years, so she was caught off guard and started dipping into her savings more than she wanted. It wasn't until she sat down to reassess her situation that she realized she could make adjustments to stay on track. Here's how you can avoid this mistake. First, make it a habit to review your finances at least once a year, or whenever something big changes, like a move, a health issue, or a new family responsibility. Start by looking at your income and expenses. Has your cost of living gone up? Are you spending more on healthcare or travel? Then check your savings and investments. Are they still aligned with your goals? Or do you need to shift things around? For example, if you're in your early 60s, you might have some money in stocks for growth, but as you get older, you might want to move more into safer options like bonds. A quick check-in keeps you from being surprised. Another key step is to plan for the long term, especially when it comes to healthcare and legacy. Long-term care, like assisted living or in-home help, can be a huge expense, and many seniors don't think about it until it's too late. Talk to your family or a financial advisor about options like long-term care insurance or setting aside savings specifically for future needs. And while it's not easy to think about, consider your estate plan. A simple will or trust can ensure your money goes where you want it to, whether that's to your kids, grandkids, or a cause you care about. Margaret worked with a local attorney to set up a basic will, and it gave her peace of mind knowing her wishes would be honored. One more thing. Don't be afraid to ask for help. You don't have to do this alone. A trusted financial advisor, a savvy family member, or even a friend who's good with numbers can offer perspective. Just make sure anyone you work with has your best interests at heart. Look for advisors who are fiduciaries, meaning they're legally required to put you first. And if you're not sure where to start, community centers or libraries often offer free workshops on retirement planning. Staying engaged with your finances doesn't mean you have to become an expert. It just means staying curious and open to learning. So, let's pull this all together. Protecting your financial freedom after 60 comes down to a few simple habits. First, keep a budget that lets you spend on what you love while staying in control. Second, stay sharp to avoid scams by questioning anything that feels off and safeguarding your personal information. Third, prepare for surprises by building an emergency fund and planning for costs like healthcare or home repairs. And finally, keep your financial plan fresh by checking in regularly and adjusting as life changes. These steps aren't about saying no to fun or living in fear. They're about saying yes to the life you want with confidence. I know this might feel like a lot, but here's the truth. Small changes make a big difference. You don't have to overhaul everything overnight. Start with one thing. Maybe tracking your spending this month or freezing your credit to stay safe. Every step you take is a step toward protecting your independence and living life on your terms. You've earned that freedom, and with a little care, you can keep it for years to come. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What's one financial tip that's worked for you, or maybe a mistake you've learned from? Your story could help someone else watching this video. And if you found this helpful, please give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more tips on living your best life after 60. Here's to your financial freedom and all the joy it brings. See you in the next video.